Hello and welcome to the show. We are back at the Endurodrome driving 3 more vehicles till destruction, starting with the 200EX, an electric version of the 200BX. Now we have seen one of these run around the course before. It actually did pretty well. However, this one, I have absolutely no idea what we're going to see in terms of survivability. Of course, being electric, well, one of the main killers of cars is removed. We're not going to have overheating. We're not going to have the engine overheat and seize up. However, there are a couple of other things that... Actually, we might not even see a drive shaft failure, come to think of it. I don't quite know how this mod works. It may well, though, have motors in each wheel, and I don't know how on earth Beam does simulating all of that in terms of a drive shaft, so we might not see that, although I might be wrong, and it might still be possible. The downsides to, well, being electric power is weight. Now, you can already see how much the car, well, how much those rear wheels are bowing. There is probably a fair chunk more weight from batteries and motors, etc. in this than the normal car, which means impact, whether it be across potholes, across the speed bumps, or whether it be from the big jumps, are going to be pretty heavy. Now, there aren't a huge number of big jumps around here. That's very, very lucky for you. It's very lucky indeed. That could have been a lot worse. Oh, are we stuck in here? It is all-wheel drive, apparently. No, we're not getting out of there. Well, that is a stuck car. Now, if the vehicles do get stuck in the mud, I guess it's probably beached. Oh, well, that can go away. We'll pull it out from an actual sensible point. Yeah, if they get stuck in the mud, I am allowed to pull them out. Likewise, if they get beached on the rocks, because cars like this, funnily enough, are not designed for this sort of area. I think we would have no problem, you know, getting through there under normal conditions. It was just the roll putting us upside down is not what you want. Oh, there's a... that's quite a lot of wiggling down towards that next corner. I think as we went into that mud, I think it bent... actually, before we got to the mud, I think we were... something might have slightly bent in one of the wheels. It's now considerably more... actually, it's considerably more bent all down that side. That's okay. The 200BX, which I presume this has... I'm assuming this will use the suspension from, might be beefed up to deal with the weight. That has got very, very strong wheel axles. You'll bend them extreme amounts, but they very, very rarely snap. So, or I say they very rarely snap, they can, but it takes a lot to snap them. So if it's just a bent wheel, we can probably get away with that. For a little while at least. It'll make positioning the vehicle for the jump, a vehicle that's already, not proven to be the easiest, positioning it down here where we need to go fast. I mean, the good news is at least we've got the power. Oh, this isn't good. That's not good for the car. See that one going wrong. There's just nothing you could do about turning the vehicle. Right, so it is a heavy vehicle, judging by the amount of force I need to roll this over. There's a lot of weight going on in this car for hitting a speed bump. Now, the speed bumps are not going to be a pleasant experience for you. This is nigh on undrivable at the moment. I say, actually, they were fine. We were well enough kind of over the top of them. There's a lot of understeer. It's because the front wheel is just almost bent fully. We can turn left, but it isn't only... we can only just turn left. And... oh, that's a bad angle. You don't want to be hitting speed bumps at that sort of an angle. When you do that, you are... I mean, you can see the camber, actually. Oh, we beached it again. We have got another beaching. We're actually also eating our front bumper. I'm allowed to remove debris if it gets caught under the car, as your debris can be a little bit of a bugger. Whoopsie daisy. I've now pulled it. I've pulled it off, and we've now eaten our own bumper even more. Right. Shall we try and get going again? There's a bit of a mess going through that section. Oh, we're crabbing something chronic. I guess we just got to keep going until something... we'll keep going until one of the wheels that steers us is completely beyond all use. I guess we might be able to knock the motor out in some sort of a way. Ooh. Are we actually gonna be able to make that corner. It was a panic and try and slow down. So regarding steering, the rules for when cars are knocked out, if I can no longer make a corner without having to reverse, the car will be counted out. Of course, there are times when I'm perfectly allowed to reverse if I've overshot, if I've, taken a jump and we've landed or rolled a car into a chicane, that's fair enough. You're allowed to grab reverse there. It's not. It might be parked up against a wall. That's not because it hasn't got the steering. That's because you launched it or you got an unlucky bounce, etc. Which is why I was allowed to reverse it while pulling it around the chicane earlier. However, this has got considerably worse than it was then. It's not at the point of knocking the car out. It is still. It can still turn left, just. It's when it gets to the point where it can no longer turn left, that's when we're going to have issues. We'll run it into the mud. We should be better positioned this time, less of a roll. Looks horrendously uncomfortable for all of that. Now look at the downside. Oh, this is about to go really badly wrong, I fear. With the amount of steering damage we've got going on with the car now, I can try and aim my vehicle for the path of least resistance to the least damaging path. It's no guarantee it's actually going to stay on that route. And yeah, so you can see the front left wheel only turns a tiny bit left. There we go. That was a horrendous bounce. If we twist that anymore, that's gonna be trouble. And I guess the good news is we've got acceleration on our side, so I can't. Well, I have to drive this as fast as I can, as hard as I can. There is only so much that I can do with this because we're on our roof again. I've kind of slightly stopped it rolling. Didn't exactly stop much damage though, considering it was not going anywhere. I shouldn't really stop the thing from rolling. I was kind of just getting ready to catch the car. Either way, I mean, it wasn't actually going to do anything when it's skidding on its roof at about 5 miles an hour, so it's fine. Have we... Oh... rear wheels that are all sorts of funky angles. Basically, I've got to try and figure out a way to get the car to the bottom of the jump and then just floor it and hope that it stays in a straight line as we floor it to try and get the 60-ish miles an hour that are needed. Although we're not doing it. It's okay until it starts going over the bumps, and that's when we lose it. Right, we've got the 60 miles an hour needed. We've actually come out of that fairly well. Considering that was a big flat spin, that could have been an awful lot worse. Oh no, come on, come back down to earth, car. Ooh, those are horrible sounds. Those are horrible sounds when they happen. Have we got any steering at all that direction? I actually wonder if we have got. I mean, this is now looking very... It's just going to get enough steering down there. I think the rear wheels are now so broken we might have lost all sort of steering here. We might be able to use a little bit of handbrake, but we are coming up towards the technical part of the course. If we cannot get through it without having to grab a reverse, that will be a car counted out. I can use a little bit of throttle to get it going. This is now very, very awkward. I can't actually take much speed across there, and even if I did, it would put us well out of position. This is the real test for the 200EX. Can I make my way through here? The answer is no, not really. Oh, it is so close to being able to... It was close. It was close. I mean, that was me. I was trying to position it as good as possible, and that is a completely destroyed steering. This kind of countering. They're kind of countering each other out, the wheels almost, and the rear wheels are just countering everything you're doing. What a knackered car. Didn't go out from the engine, however, went out from ruined steering. Our next vehicle to tackle the course is a van. Now, we have had the H-Series go around in ambulance configuration, which is quite a, I guess, specialised configuration, so I'm curious to see what the van is going to manage. Now, this will not be as fast as the ambulance, that is true, and there might be there should be less weight to it. But I mean, it's still got a fair amount of heft as we come over these jumps. It's all going to come down to how well the suspension is going to deal with this. considering the ambulance has probably got some form of heavier duty suspension. This, I mean, it's a van, it's still going to have it's going to have some decent enough suspension to cope with the weight. I'm a little concerned about the rear left wheel already. It looked like it had a lot of camber going on across the bump. Now, it might just be because the suspension's fairly soft. It does seem to have a terrible... This is just a kind of a basic version of the van. It does seem to have a terrible diff. Could that play a part? Possibly, if we start getting a bent-up chassis. That could be something that we see... Yeah. Stop the vehicle from moving. Drive shafts are a concern. The ride height is good across the rocks, that I like to see. The heavyweight vehicles, the likes of the trucks and the buses, the drive shaft is a concern. The van kind of sits at a fairly happy medium in that it isn't quite so heavy as to shatter its drive shaft easily. Oh, almost managed to get the gantry. But it could be something that we see snapped, certainly across the big jump, if we have not got the speed. We don't look too bad in terms of the speed. We might get the jump quite nicely. It might be the speed bumps or the potholes before the speed bumps even that give the van issue. This is a good opening lap so far. A little bit of bodywork damage, but nothing on the major front. Here we go, across the jump, 65 miles an hour. That's not what I wanted to see. That is not what I wanted to see. Now, we can... I think I might have possibly got the van a little bit... no, why the van? I can't go down gears. The van, the controls are overwritten from the puncher van, so X doesn't do as a downshift, so I will have to change it. I might, actually, we'll just leave it on arcade. Never mind, that's fine. That was bad. That was... The speed was good, the takeoff, we twisted, and we landed on a front wheel, and that has buckled our steering. Not beyond use yet, but it's not ideal. It is not ideal, that one, at all. That's another big crunch. We should be good to get through. There we go. Through the chicane still. So the chicane that killed the EX is not going to kill the van just yet. Ideally, though, you wouldn't have your steering go on the first lap. I think the radiator is still... I had to say something, didn't I? I started that sentence before we'd even taken off. That is prime curse of the commentator. Right, I was about to say the radiator is still doing pretty well. And then the radiator immediately evaporated. Both that front... No, it's the front right. The other issue you get with a wheel bent like this is you get that added friction, which then makes the engine... It has to work harder. The van in general now has to work harder to go forward, which means it's going to overheat quicker, and it just generally makes it that bit slower. Our chances of making it across the big jump, pretty slim. Our chances of making it up there are... We were just about fast enough first time around. Now we've lost a good few miles an hour. Probably going to have another fairly big hit. I don't know what we're going to be like across here. Can I even aim it? We hit something. Wasn't catastrophic, mind. Seems like so far the temperature's not really going up massively fast. Like, yeah, we've got suspension is strong enough to take these hits. It will collapse eventually. There will eventually be too much for the van. Christ, I don't steer there at all. But these opening laps, it should be okay. Indeed, we've got no collapsed suspension going on. It's the steering now, and of course the temperature that is gradually gone. It's gone past, I guess, the normal operating point. It could last us another lap or so. Oh, is that wheel completely disconnected now? That's bad. While the wheel was connected, a wheel being completely disconnected could suddenly... Oh, we've got... I think I've actually lost all steering. I think we haven't got any steering left whatsoever. I have no control over the van. Both sides are gone. I don't know what caused that steering to fail, but we pull the van back over. I mean, you can see I am quite clearly moving the steering, but it's gone. Something snapped in there. I could live with one wheel bent and not working, but something has gone. Actually, you can just about see... I could just about see somewhere in there. You can see the steering trying to move. I thought I did anyway. Where did it go? there. You can see a bit of the steering trying to move, but it's not connected to anything anymore, and that will be the van very much dead. Yes, indeed. Apparently Eve wanted to do the introduction to to the final car. The Bolide Corsa is going to have a go, essentially a Ferrari F40 style car. I'm going to be honest, as much as I would love it to do well because it's an amazing vehicle, it's a sports car, a very low slung sports car on a very, very destructive course. What do we reckon its chances are? Oh, it's also got immense turbo lag. This is actually one of the lesser laggier cars, and it's still got immense turbo lag, so that's going to be fun to deal with. It already doesn't like the first jump, but never mind. Second jump, we're at least still okay. I don't think the rear suspension likes me very much. That looks pretty poorly. Ooh. I think that might be just the turbo spooling up. I could do with not going in that. We could actually potentially beach our car in that. That is a sizable pothole right there. Speed bumps, well, they're not going to be fun. We got to go for it, but they are not fun in this car. Once you can get it free of all of that stuff, it is going to be very, very quick. It's a full-on supercar. I say it's full-on supercar. This is a basic version of the car, I think. It might even be the most basic version you can get. So there are considerably faster ones out there, but this is still mighty, mighty impressive. It's not going to like the dirt. Of course, it's not designed for it. And we might have issues going through the mud. We might have issues going through the rocks. And we'll definitely have issues going down the big bumpy road. Come on, come on. Through the mud we go. Perfect. Now, rocks. I've got to try and put my foot down without spinning the car. We don't want to go. If we go sideways across the rocks, that's very bad for our vehicle. But we need to be able to accelerate to get ourselves cleanly across them. God damn it, I tried to accelerate, we just got tipped sideways. The good news is, well, yeah, we got tipped sideways, which is far from ideal. We didn't actually do any significant damage. We tore a little bit of bodywork off of it, but that's about it. Okay, bumpy road. I expect to see the car on its roof at some point down here. The ultra-stiff cars do not like this section. Oh, well, this is just going to wiggle its bum around at the screen, maybe. Yep. Okay, didn't see a roll, but you know, it's not got the suspension travel to deal with that whatsoever, especially not now it's been fairly battered for a lap. The good news is we should be more than quick enough to clear this jump. I've got to be a smidge careful on the approach though with a car like this, because there are these little ruts, these little bumps that will launch the car up into the air before we get to the main jump, and if we do that and get the car twisted somewhere, oh, that's not good, that's bad, that's very bad. Ooh, all of our wheels are still on. When you hit those potholes beforehand in the car, essentially what you have happened, and we have seen it break a couple of cars, if they get airborne across the first pothole, they then are launched into the speed bumps, often wheel first, and wheel first into a speed bump is bad. That's when you bend, snap, and tear off wheels, sometimes even drive shafts if you're a little bit unlucky. Now, we will be able to make the most of the Bolide speed down here. Well, I say that. Again, as the rules say, I've got to go as quick as I can. Down there, we have no traction issues, unlike on the dirt stuff, so we have got to go for it. Oh, you're not as heavy as the EX. You are not as heavy as the EX whatsoever. Right. Good news. While it looks pretty broken, mechanically speaking, we're actually fairly sound. The engine, a little bit from being upside out, that's not a problem. The car will keep running like that for a while. I have a horrible feeling, I've had a horrible feeling we've eaten our front bumper. It's actually, well, I mean, it is bent a little bit underneath us. It was more because we were massively off the boost, that's why we weren't going as fast as I thought, or I was kind of expecting us to be going. Yeah, I can't really do much down here with the car. Oh, are we still good? Yeah, we've still got full accompaniment of turning. Much as we saw with the Dove, I mean, this part of the course can't really do very much to hurt. Certainly not a car in this sort of condition, where there's not really anything wrong outside of the visual, aspect. Not really anything wrong with our Bolide. We should be able to, get across the mud pit, no issues. That's not what I wanted. There we see a supercar getting sudden, a supercar and a laggy turbo supercar at that, getting a sudden burst of wheel spin up towards an important part. That front bumper is a real problem that we have got going on here. I don't actually know if I can, it's not fully snapped off though, which is unfortunate. Can I just drag it clear of the vehicle? Not really. Gonna have to see if oh, actually wasn't far enough. I thought we'd clear the rocks. Whoops, there we go. It's not going to affect the car at the moment. I think it's still far enough, well enough connected and so on that it isn't going to, well, it might make a mess, but it's not at the moment stopping us driving or steering. Might come off if we do that a few more times. Come on car, we will get you going again. With the radiator gone, of course, it's only a matter of time. The engine is going to overheat, it is going to expire. It's whether we go out from something else first. Wheel failure is the most likely. Steering failure probably first, followed by wheel axle to, well, one of the drive wheels, essentially. Second, drive shaft, potentially. Although this is looking like we can clear, I guess maybe a speed bump could knock it. It's resilient, I'll give it that much. It is a resilient car. It is a very resilient car, actually, to have taken this much of a battering, and nothing really major in what is a supercar failing. Oh, there. Pothole on the front wheel, as now I say that, we've got a little bit of damage. But again, this is a supercar that went sideways across a pothole, and all it's done is slightly bent the front left. We're kind of flapping around with the, we've actually gone further than the van, I think. We've got the kind of engine cover flapping around in the breeze. The engine is getting hot now. We're going to clonk down on all of that as we head towards here. I haven't got the traction to do anything mad across there, but we are neatly through. We're on to another lap. Steering is now questionable. Funnily enough, yeah, it doesn't handle so good. Engine starved oil for a second time, but only very briefly. How are the rest of our wheels doing? Little punctures. Actually thought it was one of the front wheels that took a puncture. Ignore me, that was a puncture from the rock incident. Fair enough to the front tyres for holding up through all of that. Can I punch out of here? Might actually be able to get across there relatively well. It is doing good for a low-slung supercar. This is doing mighty well. The engine is about to give up. I think I saw coolant overheating come up. I might have seen piston rings damaged, so there is only going to be a matter of time. And as this engine dies, being such a laggy turbo engine, we will potentially not have very much power at the end. If we start losing power and we have to kind of work the engine harder, you're going to overheat it very quickly. Not that it's, you know, needs much more encouragement to overheat. Mud pit's not going to help. Come on, I have to put you back down to first to try and get you going again across that rock pit. I mean, even that time across the rock pit it wasn't sideways, but it wasn't good. Though still no. I am very impressed by the front wheels on this. Still no real major damage. Oh, that's the engine gone. Yeah, the actual outside of the radiator, outside of the engine radiator overheating, and that leading to the car's demise, for a supercar, that is in a remarkably good shape. It looks a bit sad at the front, but it is in a remarkably good shape. On to the results, and it would be the Bolide that would go furthest of the day. Interestingly, the Corsa would go into a 17th place. In fact, it beats the Group 4 Bolide, the normal Bolide, that went around here. That's quite an impressive performance from that car. I have to say, the suspension held up very, very well indeed. The 200EX, that would go 23rd place, dying at the end of lap number 2. While its distance did show up as very, very high, I don't know if for a reason that car was tracking a lot higher in terms of distance. It would be lap 2 to go out. Very heavy suspension, was not happy with it, and eventually excessive damage done to that steering, making the car rather difficult to drive. And for comparison's sake, that's quite a lot further down than the 200BX. In fact, that is up in I'm trying to find where it's ended up. 8th place, there we go, lap 4 for a normal 200BX. We have to go further down to find the van, but not that much further. 29th place for it, which is not too shabby for a large vehicle. Got a little bit unlucky, I don't quite know what in the end snapped in that. Just at one point went around a corner and suddenly there was no more steering left. It's gone into a very steering killing section of the table right around here, but yeah, it's an okay performance in the end. Couldn't really do too much about that one. That, though, is going to be it for this episode. As ever, I shall link all mods used in the description so you can download them and have a go with them yourself. But that'll be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.